Hello everybody, welcome back to Throttle Grotto, where bad decisions in automotive YouTube are made weekly. What have I done now? Well, what else would I do? I got another car. Let's go. It's been a crazy week and a half here in the shop. I've put the 928 up for sale because I love it the least of all the cars I have right now. I've been making some headway on the 944, which I got like last week. And parts are coming in. Hopefully by this coming weekend when this video's up, I will have all the parts for the ignition and the fuel systems. The reason I got the 944 is because the car I was looking at that I thought was going to go away and I wouldn't have to deal with or own. Now I own it. The owner of the car called me up and said, I don't want to tow it back to California. I don't want to work on it. I don't want to spend money on it. Do you want it? I was like, well, how much are we talking? He's like $0. For all you car guys and girls out there, you know that $0 is the magic number to entice nearly anyone into anything. So let's check out what I got for $0. All right, so this is as close as we'll ever get on this channel to one of those fancy pull off the cover reveals. But here goes. Look at this gem. This is a 1985 BMW E30 coupe, straight from Germany / Europe. It looks a little rough because it is, but overall it's actually a pretty clean car. Straight for 80% of the car. It does have sport seats. It has, apparently the houndstooth back seat is a pretty uncommon thing. It has an odor and a skeleton on the dashboard. This is a 323i, so it has, like, it's confusing because down here it says like 2.7, but it's a 2.3 liter. Look at all that fury and goodness. So originally it was a Bronzit car. I know the Bronzit cars are not very desirable in comparison. Somebody sprayed this car silver and did a meh job at it. But it does have Euro bumpers, Euro lights. It's been sitting since 2010. Let's see here, what else can I tell you about it? Oh yeah, the front end damage. So it's got some front end damage, and yeah, so got crunched up in the hood a little bit into the fender, a little bit into the core support, a little bit into the bumper and the front air dam. So hopefully we're going to get all that fixed, straighten out the bumper and use what we can from that and make all that happy. And we're going to see if this thing runs, because if it runs, then it's worth putting some money into. First, we got to get it cleaned up a little bit. It's a little gnarly. All right, if there's one thing I've learned today is that I would be the most ineffective car thief on the planet. Could not get the steering column to unlock, no matter how many times I banged a screwdriver into it. So I'm gonna have to work on that later. And I only have about another half hour or so of time today. So let's just do a little cleanup on this. I realize a shop vac doesn't really do me any favors underneath the hood, but it does get some of the major dirt and debris out. So tomorrow I will come out here after work and give this thing a bath because it's pretty horrid. The inside is a tiny bit better. And I still have to come up with a solution for an ignition switch, which might entail me removing the column. Well, I've really done it to myself this time. I'd also like to thank Dirty Mike and the boys for running their soup kitchen in here while this car was parked in a parking lot for a while. If you don't know what that is, I don't suggest Googling that. Watch the movie with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. Okay, everyone. After some considerable groaning and frustration, I finally got the old tumbler assembly off, and boy, was this frustrating. Yeah, I didn't realize how many steps there would be to get this released and off the car, but one of the big problems was the pin which holds the steering wheel on was frozen in place. In the up position, of course. Even after I drilled the tumbler, it still wouldn't release. So I used that pin and put a little drill on it, and it finally, between that and the penetrating oil, released this whole arm inside of here that was stuck, and allowed me to turn the wheel and then disassemble the steering column. I had to disassemble basically everything up to the wheel to get that to come off. So that was a little bit of a learning experience since I haven't done that on an E30 before. But I have a couple of hours without rain. So I'm going to do things a little bit out of order here. Right now the ground is dry, which means I should be doing things on the ground, like replacing the fuel filter and the fuel pump. I know the fuel pump in this thing is toast. So we're going to throw a fuel pump in it, put it up on ramps here real quick, throw a fuel pump in it, throw the filter in it, and then get it back on the ground, and then I'll give the outside the washing it truly deserves before it gets washed in rain. But at least I can scrub it up, get all the moss off of it, hopefully get this kind of crap off of here. At least clean it up a little bit so it looks nicer underneath the car cover. Okay, so there's just not enough room underneath this car for the two of us, but right up here, right in front of the rear wheel is the fuel pump, and there's like a little accumulator here, a couple of rubber mounts, and some probably extremely firm fuel lines. But I'm going to swap this out, and then we'll go to the front and do the filter. And I'm also going to drain the fuel because I'm sure the fuel in here is disgusting. And it's unfortunate that you guys don't have smell-o-vision. All right, friends, if you don't have a Honda CR-V table in your stash of things, they come in so handy. So it wasn't too bad to get that fuel pump released from the body. I have to get this bracket separated here. All right, now that's free. I can take this, what looks to be a roll of electrical tape donut off of here, and transfer it over to the new pump. Try to line it up the same way it came out. Make it easier to put the terminals back on. All right, now I'm going to look around for a few more pieces of fuel line because both these are, this one's got a big crack right in the corner of it here, probably from sitting so long, but it looks like I can put a piece of universal fuel line in there, and I'll replace this one while I have it out too. All right, so the fuel pump is now in, and way down in this little tiny chasm here is the fuel filter, and I hope there's enough flexibility in that hose on the bottom to get the bottom of the bottom connection off. All right, everybody, I have a few hour window of time before it starts raining again. So here's where we're at. Found a couple of hoses that were cracked and not clamped, so I replaced them. This one here, this little breather hose, this one next to the intake manifold. This all runs brake stuff. Yeah, the one for the vacuum for the brake was like completely pinched. It's like completely pinched off. I also replaced the fuel line from the filter up to the T, and then from the T down to the, I presume that's like a fuel rail down there, and then the little shorty one over to the fifth injector. I need to go through and replace some of the other ones, do the vacuum lines, do all that stuff. But right now, I need to get this thing sprayed out and just like let it dry and then see if it actually runs. So that's kind of the goal for today. I need to keep water away from the airflow meter, or at least around the edge of the airflow meter, because someone's already peeled the cap off this thing. So I presume someone's tampered with the airflow meter. But right now we just need to get it cleaned up, make it a little easier to see what's going on, and then see if it runs. Right, now we got this thing all cleaned up. Let's take a look at it. Like, the silver paint is obviously a respray, and it's not in great shape, but it doesn't, you know, the matte finish is actually kind of cool. I kind of dig it. The interior, the dash is nearly crack free. There's one little crack right there, right where the VIN plate mounted at some point. But I mean, the rest of it is crack free. I wiped it down with some 303 just to keep it from getting any worse. The engine bay turned out pretty good, actually. Like, for a, how old is this car? 40 some years old. 41 years old this year, I think. Under the hood cleaned up really well, actually, for a car this old. Area inside the gas cap cleaned up really well. Got all the garbage and crud out of here. Like, still got a little thing to hold the fuel cap. That's pretty cool that little piece survived that long. So the next step, let's throw some fuel and a battery in here and see what happens. Okay, so I guess first of all we can test hazards. I have hazard lights in the dash. Do we have hazards working on the car? Yes, we do. Yep, we got hazards. So turn signals should work. I don't think that one's going to work, but that one does. What else do we have that works on here? We don't have a horn, but that might be. Let's see here, do blinkers probably need to have ignition power, which we're going to have to do this way because I don't have a key yet. Okay. The fuel gauge is unsure what to think. Probably hasn't had fuel in it a while. Let's see here. Do I have... Yep, I got turn signals. That one's blinking faster because that one is bad. I've got a warning light. I've got the things on the little piece here. The motor roll, Wasser and Bremslicht are all not working. Let's see here. What else do we got here? This is the wipers. You got the wiper switch. That probably won't work without being grounded to the steering column. All right, so came back in here and just set these, grounded these switches just temporarily so that they would be happy. And now the wipers work. As you can see, I got a little white pattern here. I just ran them across the windshield. The turns work. All this stuff is hooked up. So let's give it a shot. Oh, wait. What am I doing? You can wait a little bit longer. Let's check the lights. Ooh, I got headlights. Well, I got one. I got one headlight. I'm sure there's a song in there about that somewhere. Maybe somebody will make one. Can't really tell. Can't really. It's just too bright to see if I have running lights out here. Can't tell if I. Yeah, doesn't look like those are on either. Let's see. Oh my god. That's hilarious. The fog lights still work. And that one's smoking a lot. Hopefully that's just water burning out of there. Well, that's crazy that fog light still works. But I should probably turn that off. Now if the fogs in the back work. Oh yeah, look at that. I got a rear fog that's working. Wild. Yeah, looks like there's fog on both sides. Maybe, yeah. That's cool. And I can't tell if I have instrument cluster lights. The fuel gauge is actually showing a little bit of fuel, which is appropriate because there's just a little bit of fuel in it. All right, see if it'll fire off. All right, let me get in here with my key. And I heard the fuel pump earlier. Look at that. It wants to live. It's even giving me an alarm and telling me it wants to live. There's a little bit of valve tick, which I can expect that. Yeah, things sound a little loose in there, but this car's got 300 and some thousand kilometers on it, so I can tolerate some of that. Go back and see how it sounds from the tailpipe. A little bit of misfire here and there, but old cap, old rotor, old plugs. So there's a little bit of misfire in there, but it's got an old cap, an old rotor, old plugs. Let's see if this thing will do me a solid and move under its own power and come off these ramps, so I don't have to push it. Doesn't really want to go into any gear though when it's running. Yep, we got no clutch pedal, or we got clutch pedal, but no love. Let's take a look in the thingy here. No, it's got fluid, so there's probably a good chance that the slave cylinder is toast. Well, the clutch is right on the floor, but it's working. So it might just need a slave cylinder, but I'm gonna get this thing off the ramps. Right, wow. I'm amazed. This car sat for 15 years, as you can see by the tabs here, and maybe even a little longer than that. And after some basic maintenance, like replacing a bunch of vacuum lines, because a bunch of the vacuum lines were bad, the fuel pump was bad, the fuel was definitely bad, and putting a battery in it and getting the ignition sort of figured out. I've got parts on the way for that, and we'll swap all those out so I can actually lock the car and start it with a key like a normal human being and all that stuff. But I'm impressed. Like 335,000 kilometers on this car, which I don't know what that turns out, 200,000 miles, something like that. It's seen some stuff, but she's still going. And the trunk light's working. Yeah, I got the little trunk light here is actually on and working. So, so after we make it move under its own power, which is always my preference, we will start tackling the engine bay and getting like all of the maintenance stuff done, the brake lines, the brakes, the timing belt, which is sorely overdue. I think this is like probably a few years over. Water pump, coolant hoses, all that stuff. Or who knows, maybe a lower mileage engine will show up in the meantime. But I don't know, keeping the 323i engine in here and keeping it going, I don't know, that's pretty cool. But the first step of this project is done, and that is just getting it to where it starts. And there's still tons to do. But if you're new here, subscribe and catch up on some of the old projects we've had on the channel. And that's all the time I have for today, because it's about to start raining. Until next time, get out there and work on something.